Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Ladies, understand something. The top end of a woman's weight is 145 pounds. Okay. My mother's 5'9", and she was 145 pounds until she was 50. That's the top end of your weight, because there should be about a 40-pound difference between you and men.
Basically, if the guy is rich, what ends up happening is the lawyer contacts the person and be like, hey, you know, your name gonna be all in the paper, so you might as well just settle out of court.
I can recognize talent. Even if I don't agree with the politics, a lot of the politics that was underlying in the show and some of the sentiments he was trying to share, I recognize artistry when an artist is present.
Yes, this is the definition of absolutely cooked. We'll never go back and take a look at her bad decision and take accountability for any of that.
Because there is powerful people in the industry, somehow there is a different law that applies to them. And I agree with that assessment.
What's good, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you are right now, salute. What's the word? Oh, let me make sure I'm straight over here. How everybody feeling, man? Happy Thursday. Peace and blessings. All right, let's see what we got here. Boom. All right, that's a bet. Friday right around the corner. How y'all feeling? Y'all good? We made it. I know, long week, very long week, but we here. And I personally couldn't be more grateful. So good to see y'all one more again. We got a good one for you this evening. If you didn't check out yesterday's show, shout out to Sydney. Top 5 disasters, natural disasters. That was a fun one. I enjoyed that one very, very much. If you didn't check that one out, go over to the YouTube, pull it up. I think you'll learn a lot from this one. That's a very, very intelligent woman. Shout out to her. And shout out to everybody that's in the building tonight. Do me a solid. Like, share, repost. Let the people know we live. If you have any topics, anything that you want to see us discuss up here for future reference, this is where you can reach me at. Everything down at the bottom. I need to update that a little bit too, because I have a couple more apps to add to this, but I got Jason in the building. I'm going to bring him up here in a second. Tomorrow, we are back. The Addict Virtual Open Mic. Make sure you lock in. It's been 2 weeks since we had one, so I'm excited for it. that being said, let's go ahead and get into tonight's discussion. I actually got a video for us to watch. So, yeah. Jason, what's going on?
How you been? How you be?
It's Friday, man. Well,
Thursday.
I'm claiming Friday early, so I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. How everything going, man?
It's going. Working the grind, you know how it is.
Never stops. We got a little bit of rain here, so that's always good. The weather's kind of warmed up finally, so I'm embracing it. No jacket, feeling good. I got a video that I want to play, and before anyone asks, I don't know what they were actually debating in the video, but there's a reason why I chose this clip. See, you'll see for yourself. I would rather you get your own opinion on it. This will be my first time watching it with you guys, but there's a situation where one party is trying to make a point, the other party isn't really trying to hear the other person, and it's what made me think about emotional immaturity. The video itself, there was no real basis for it. It was just they didn't really seem like they were going anywhere with what they were trying to accomplish with their back and forth. And the brother got a little frustrated, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. SM, yeah, I jumped ahead. I'm just glad that Thursday is down, you know. But let me go ahead and play this video for y'all real quick and tell me, what did y'all see here?
Oh my God.
I would have sat here and told you that you were emotionally mature, we would have moved on to the next topic already. But because it's something that you don't favor me saying about you, is why you're going back and forth with me.
No,
I want
to know
because if I was a yes man and I told you a lie, what's in my opinion a lie, which is to tell you that you're emotionally mature, when I honestly do not feel like you are, you would have been okay with that. But because I said something you didn't like, is why you're acting this way, and we're going over and over and over and over in a big old circle.
The reason why
you're trying to prove that you are, when in fact, in my opinion, you're not.
I just want you to not say something with so much confidence that can't be logically proven. That is my problem. And it's not only you.
My opinion is my opinion. I'm not a dictionary. I'm not God. I'm not a dictionary. I'm not Wikipedia. I'm none of those things. You asked my opinion and I gave you my opinion. If you don't agree with my opinion, that is okay. You don't have to agree with my opinion. But why are you trying to debunk somebody's opinion? Why are you trying to prove to me something that you feel?
But why do you keep putting something on me that you can't logically prove? That's not weird.
I did not come out of nowhere.
I just have questions. I'm only asking questions. Why are you putting something on me that you can't logically prove? You like doing that? You just randomly say things about people? That's what you do? I just have questions, bro. I just have questions, bro.
I got to do a countdown because you have a way. I'm not going to allow you to trigger me. I'm going to let you have that.
Why has no one punched her in the throat yet?
Damn!
One thing that I cannot stand, and I think that a lot of people feel this way, but one thing I cannot stand is someone who's going to run their damn mouth in order to make themselves feel heard and take up space so that other people can't say what have to be said. That's someone who's a coward. She's a coward because she doesn't want to be proven wrong. She's afraid of being proven wrong. And the moment he opens his mouth and he actually has something to say where she has to listen, she's like, well, I have to do a countdown. No, woman, you don't need to do a countdown. you need Jesus, because you obviously have no idea how to act like a human being. You'd much rather talk at people than have a conversation with them because you're afraid of what they're going to say to you.
Yo, I thought
Hate that shit.
the whole thing was hilarious, man. Like, just based off of initially hearing her talk to him and how she was just immediately dismissive. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You know how a kid put their fingers over their ears, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want it. That's what that was. That's what that was. And I can almost guarantee you, not even knowing where the conversation was going or where it originated from, I can almost guarantee that was how it was for damn near the entire segment between them.
What kills me is the fact that she was giving a countdown and saying, "I'm not gonna let you trigger me." It's like he already did. He's living rent free in her head, without her even knowing it, because she feels like she has to give a countdown. Say, "I'm not gonna let you trigger me." It's like mission accomplished, already done. He already accomplished that by making you feel like you had nothing to say, and then you trying to reclaim control of the conversation by saying you need a countdown. That wasn't a conversation. That was a bid for control, and she was losing badly. The only time when she felt like she had control was when her mouth was just continually moving. But as soon as he actually had something to say, and he could actually put a sentence together that, well, not put it together, but actually get a sentence out, because he was very well articulate, and actually say something that she had to consider. Oh no, he's triggering her.
You know what I heard?
A bunch of bullshit? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, plus that she was trying to make it sound as if he was essentially condemning her voice, or making her come off as if, oh, you're wrong because I said you're wrong, and shut up. And then
go ahead.
On his side, he's like, how are you trying to force me to basically just sit up here and agree with an opinion without you giving me any type of factual background to support your opinion?
What she was doing was called gaslighting, where she was trying to assert a narrative that was not true. She was calling him emotionally immature when she had no foundation to build that on through the conversation they were having. If the previous part of the conversation was anything like what we saw was a brother who was actually very well articulate, who was actually asking questions, who wanted to know what was going on, and she was going off the rails, attacking him, and believing that she was justified in doing so. And then when he decided he was going to assert himself, she then had to diminish him even further by saying, "I need a countdown. I can't let you trigger me." It's like, you already, like I said, you already were triggered. You were triggered from the moment that you opened your mouth. Well, communication usually is the back and forth of ideas in order to create understanding. That was not communication. That was verbal combat.
That's all it was. That's all it was. And I love this because you always hear this, you need to emotionally be evolved, and you need to know how to regulate your feelings, and most men don't know how to do that. Well, I wanted this particular piece to be a case study to anyone, especially specific women who speak like her. Look real close and listen very close to the exchange. She was upset, and she's gonna tell you that she's not upset. But you don't elevate your voice if you're not upset. You don't need to overtalk someone if you're not upset, or if you don't feel triggered by something that somebody said. The whole point of the conversation was to get to the bottom of each party's concerns, or whatever you agreed with or disagreed with. But she wanted everything to just fall into her lap, and it didn't really sound like she was giving him a fair chance to pick apart her argument. So she just attacked him. And for someone to be that age, something is really off with that for me.
Well, most men stop emotionally evolving at high school. They are stunted emotionally from high school to adulthood. They have the emotional IQ of a 15 or 16-year-old. And that's I think that's a little generous. So when you have someone like this guy who is continually doing the work, and it's obvious that he was willing to ask the questions. He wasn't attacking her. He was asking questions, and she had no answers. So she was just going to shut down and not engage. That is immature. One of the greatest signs of emotional intelligence is the ability to remain composed. If you cannot remain composed, you are emotionally illiterate.
At SM, if I'm having a conversation with you, or any woman in particular, about whatever's going on, you got the floor. Say whatever you need to say. But remember who you're having the conversation with. I'm not your enemy. I don't sign your paychecks. I'm not out to get you. I'm going to give you the floor to speak and say whatever it is that you need to say to me. You got all the time in the world. I know most women like to talk. They want to express themselves. You want to be felt. You want to be heard. Do your thing. But then when it's my time to talk, you must allow me the space to talk. Now, if you're not going to do that, then there's a problem. Because there has to be a level of respect here. You said something about men peaking at maturity or something of that effect around their teens.
That's incorrect.
Let me ask you a question. Are you saying that men do not have emotional wherewithal, or they're lacking it, or do you feel that it's a component that is missing in men in general, or is this a little more complex than what I'm making it?
It's way more complex. men don't really peak until about 35. Or they don't start to peak until about 35. That's when their understanding of life really happens. And this is biological because during their teens, 20s, and even early 30s, they're still in that phase of take risks, act assertively, compete, and get what you can. They're still acting with a lot of testosterone. Wisdom hasn't set in yet. And so it takes a little bit of time for men to be able to say, oh, wait, I've done all this stuff. I've worked hard. I've really put forth energy. I've only gotten this amount done. Even though I've expended all this energy, made all these mistakes, done all this stuff, what am I missing? It's when they begin to slow down that they begin to really understand that life is so much more. So between 35 and 40 is when men really start to enter their emotional maturity. And women usually enter their emotional maturity around their around high school years. But in order for that to mean anything, they have to continue to mature because they have to be able to provide the nurturing depth that children need, which is why they emotionally peak so much earlier than men, because of the emotional needs of children and what they're supposed to be able to provide. And if they aren't doing that, children suffer, which means society suffers. So for men, the ability to get all of that action out, the ability to have drive, to be ambitious, to take action, to be someone who's willing to take risks. These are all good things for people when they are younger because they're able to really help move things along. But once they get into their mid to late 30s, into their early 40s, this is when they are meant to really think about how they can begin to make impact. This is really when their biological clock starts ticking. And their biological clock is actually the biological clock of knowing that they are not going to live forever. And because of that, they have to build legacy. Whereas women, their biological clock is their ability to have a viable pregnancy that will produce young so that they can pass on the things that they know, the things that they have learned and experienced in their world, or what they know to be true for their culture or their ability to transfer emotional depth and whatnot to their children. The window for that is very short. Between in most cultures, it's 18 until about 30, 35 is when you get into geriatric pregnancies. So in that, 17-year period, you're able to produce children. And as that window closes, the desperation for, or the urge to want to procreate gets stronger. And with that, so should emotional maturity. And if it doesn't, there's a huge problem. Women should be more emotionally wise than men because they should have been able to experience that emotional regulation or that emotional intelligence longer. By the time men start beginning to understand their emotional intelligence, they've experienced a lot of action-oriented experiences in the world, as they should. And so the amount of time that they have for emotional intelligence is largely based on how they're able to be more emotionally intelligent for themselves so they can provide a sense of stability for their family, their culture, and their society. And that's why the idea of men peaking in their 20s is absolute garbage, because they're still way too wild at that point. They still need an outlet by which to exercise all that energy, all that testosterone, all that stuff that causes them to be competitive, aggressive, and always moving forward. The things that make men great. They're still going through that. Women don't naturally have that urge unless they're taught it and it's beaten into them over and over and over again that they have to use that urge. Even then, it's never going to be as strong as with men because men have it naturally. But that's a topic for another time. The idea that I'm getting at is emotional maturity is extremely important. Both men and women experience it. They experience it in different times for different reasons and for different purposes. The emotional maturity that women are supposed to have is meant to be very powerful. It's meant to be a guiding influence, a foundational building influence for families, for cultures, and for societies. And when men discover their emotional maturity, this is more of the ability to take what they have learned, take the experiences they have gained, and guide others through what they've done correctly, be a cautionary tale for what they've done incorrectly, and also provide the notion for discovery on what else can be done. And that's what I believe the whole idea of peaking is for men and for women. I'm going to yield the mic now.
So, two examples that I can give here. When I've seen a man and a woman going through their struggles with this, when you as a man do not have that loving, all right, I need to be a little sympathetic, I need to have some type of compassion for what's going on around me, or you're more guarded. I don't think how can I phrase this? I think like for me, when I was in my early 20s, it wasn't as if I wasn't aware of what I was doing. I know I was wild and reckless. I just didn't have any control over my priorities or like what I really wanted to focus on. I was just wanting to have as much fun as possible. Reality kind of hit, and it forces you to look at things that you were taking lightly or you weren't really taking it serious, and it's putting you in a different perspective of well, you might have thought this was lighthearted and fun, but look at what it did. Look at how it affected other people. Look at how it makes people look at you because of how you're moving and how you're carrying yourself. How anyone's supposed to take you serious, business-wise, romantically, or anything, because you all over the place. As far as with women who don't have that control, or they don't blossom the way that they should, typically you end up seeing someone with multiple partners. And I was watching a video earlier that it touched on, and I don't know how much this ties into it for anyone else, but when you have multiple partners, portions of their DNA still is tied to you, and it is connected to you in ways where if you do end up having children and the child doesn't necessarily look like the biological parent, it doesn't mean that it's not theirs. It's just that the person that had so much DNA in and out of them throughout the time that they've been out here experimenting and living and spreading their oats, that they can take on the characteristics and traits of other people, not biologically, but I don't know. It's just, I think it's important to know that these decisions that we make, these conversations that we have, that they're taken with a grain of salt. Like, don't dismiss someone's telling you, look, I don't like what you said, what you did, it was offensive, it was disrespectful. If you're having a conversation with somebody and you don't agree with them, you can still have a conversation with them without it turning into a, like you just saw in this video where she's just, let me count to 10 because you're not going to get under my skin and make me start to lash out and say you got short dick energy. I'm not going to do that. At some point, you got to know that raising your voice, screaming, doesn't really get anything done. I had a question, and actually now that I think about it, it was, do men, in your opinion, I have an answer for it, but I'm just curious to know what you think. Do men regulate their emotional intelligence, or I can't think of the right word for it, but do you think that they regulate theirs the same as women do? I mean, obviously, I'm gonna say no, they don't, but I just want to know from your point of view, how does it affect them separately outside of the biological aspect of it?
Well, you can't take the biological aspect out of it, unfortunately. But the way that human beings regulate has to do with a more general focus than just men and women. And there are two ways that regulation happens: self-regulation and co-regulation. And with human beings, self-regulation is meant to be a short-term coping mechanism kind of thing that you use in a moment. But in order to understand how to better self-regulate, you have to know how to co-regulate. And this is the whole point that I make when I say that human beings have a three-part prime directive, which is procreate, community, and moral worth. The community aspect is the aspect of co-regulation, knowing how to interact with other people in a way that makes one feel safe and secure and able to move freely in their world. It takes co-regulation in order for that to happen. And human beings must be able to co-regulate in order to want to interact in a way that creates friendships, that creates community, that creates associations, that creates trust, and eventually creates partnerships to create other human beings. It's absolutely necessary. The ability to co-regulate is absolutely massive, and I think this is a part that we've kind of gotten away from. We've gotten away from both men and women, more so women than men, which is surprising. But the idea of co-regulation, the ability to take ideas instead of living in an echo chamber where one's own ideas are basically reinforced because people are too scared or too sheep-like in order to challenge one's own ideas. And instead, they just kind of say, "Oh yeah, absolutely." That's not co-regulation. That's something else. But with true co-regulation, you have the idea that you can create trust, and that trust is the belief that you will be accepted for who you are, regardless of how you present yourself, simply because you have the right to be there, or you have the you believe that you're going to be accepted simply because of who you are. And that opens a door for honest communication, which is also known as conflict. Conflicting ideas that eventually boil down into consensus. And that consensus is what creates a way forward. And that way forward creates an idea of who has responsibility for what, which then creates a result. And this is true for business as it is for relationships. So it's not so much about how men and women interact that creates regulation. It's about how human beings create regulation. What I have found is that there is a resistance to creating that trust. And I find that men are beginning to understand how important it is, especially with other men, being willing to open up, being willing to take criticism, being willing to see the areas in which they can improve, and the willingness to take that to heart and then improve. It's massive. You see in real time, you see men's groups, brotherhoods, these other things that go around, the like coaching programs that are dedicated towards men, where there are extremely successful results. And those results aren't the exception, they become the rule. They're much more likely to see how they can improve and then to improve. It takes emotional intelligence for that to happen. It takes emotional maturity to get there. And when men who are undergoing this interact with women who have not done the work, who use their associations as echo chambers or as a way of creating competition even within each other without trust, but just as a way of breaking each other down to find out who can get what from whom, it creates a sense of disappointment. Like real disappointment. And I'm not talking about the kind of disappointment like, oh, well, that sucks. It's more like this disappointment of that almost like that fatherly disappointment. Like, I'm really disappointed. I was expecting that I was going to have some way of being able to interact with you on an adult level. And instead, I'm dealing with an adult version of a 16-year-old. That is disappointing. And you see it more and more. I mean, this is that clip that you showed me is an example of that. The guy that is talking to that woman, he is holding back. He is offering so much patience, and at the same time, you can tell he is so disappointed by the direction that the conversation has gone. That she felt the audacity to say, "You're emotionally immature." How the hell would you know? The last time you even was able to spell emotionally mature was when you were in grade school. And for a woman to call a man emotionally immature is laughable. Just like No, I'm not gonna say the last part, but it's the idea that a woman has any idea what a man has gone through, or what he has done in his own life, and then based on a comment that he makes, she calls him emotionally mature. That's an attack. And then she virtue signals by saying, "I'm going to do a countdown before you trigger me." She was already triggered because she felt the need to lash out already. And she thinks that that's normal behavior. What I would have loved is when she called him emotionally immature, for him to say, "What makes you say that? What makes you say that I'm emotionally immature? What led you to that conclusion?" And have her talk it out. Because I guarantee if he had done that and she was forced to really talk about it, she would have seen the absolute asinine display of ignorance that she was giving. I yield the mic.
I'm gonna do y'all a solid because a lot of y'all are new faces in here. I'm gonna play the video one more time, and so you'll have better context as to what he's referring to. I'm with you on that, especially the disappointed part, because I've been here a number of times, bro, and I really will try my best to have a conversation with certain people, and you say one thing that doesn't align with whatever fruipity boopity alakazam crap they got going on in their head, and they start talking about your grandparents and all types of shit. So I'm gonna play this for y'all one more time, and then I'm gonna give my feedback, because I know there was something else that I wanted to point out here too that I think I missed.
Oh my God.
If I would have sat here and told you that you were emotionally mature, we would have moved on to the next topic already. But because it's something that you don't favor me saying about you, is why you're going back and forth with me.
No,
and
I
getting
just- 'cause
defensive.
I wanna know if
because
there's
if I was a yes man and I told you a lie, what's in my opinion a lie, which is to tell you that you're emotionally mature, when I honestly do not feel like you are, you would have been okay with that. But because I said something you didn't like, is why you're acting this way, and we're going over and over and over and over in a
No,
big old
the
circle.
reason why
you're trying to prove that you are, when in fact, not in fact, but in my opinion, you're not.
I just want you to not say something with so much confidence that can't be logically proven. That is my problem.
This
And it's
has
not
nothing-
only you.
My
Let me
opinion
fin-
is my opinion. I'm not saying I'm not a dictionary. I'm not God. I'm not a dictionary. I'm not Wikipedia. I'm none of those things. You asked my opinion and I gave you my opinion. If you don't agree with my opinion, that is okay. You don't have to agree with my opinion. But why are you trying to debunk somebody's opinion? Why are you trying to prove to me something that you feel? If
But why do
feel
you keep
within
putting
yourself,
something on me that
if
you can't logically
you
prove? That's
asked
not
my
weird.
I did not come out of nowhere.
I just have
You
questions.
asked
I'm only
my-
asking questions. Why are you putting something on me that you can't logically prove? You like doing that? You just randomly say things about people? That's what you do? I just have questions, bro. I just have questions, bro.
I got into a countdown because you have a way. I'm not gonna allow you to trigger me. I'm gonna let you have that.
So it was two things, right? It was two things that she had said. One of them was she said, hold on, because I'm still kind of flabbergasted at this. Where at any given point did he give the impression that he was attacking her? What she had an issue with was him challenging something that she said, And he wanted more context. Like you're I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody else. You're not just going to make a statement and then I'm just supposed to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's it. I guess because since you said it, that it must be 1000% accurate.
Which kills me. And that kills me because she then when he challenges her and he says, well, I don't understand why you would say something you can't logically prove. Then she backtracks and says, well, that's just my opinion. Well, no, I guarantee the way that she phrased it was trying to make it sound like fact. And then when he challenges her, she gets all uppity and she then decides that she's going to dysregulate because again she has the emotional intelligence of a newt, and she decides that she's going to go off on him because he doesn't agree with her. You're absolutely right. It's the entitled mindset where fantasy meets reality, and fantasy doesn't like what the reality that they see, and so they try to regain control when it was never to be had. And then she goes into that countdown thinking that she's actually doing something correct. It's like, woman, you are so far. You are crazier than a one-eyed rat in a tin shithouse. And it shows. Your mama failed you.
At SM, it wasn't about opinion. Her opinion, she wanted her opinion to be a fact, just like Jason said, and he just was not just going to accept that for what it was. And so she got offended by it because I guess people just want you to, like, what she say, yes man. She want, if I was a yes man, this wouldn't be, you wanted him to be a yes man. You wanted him to agree with you. But you reversed it and tried to make it seem like he was the one that was causing the issue here. That wasn't what this was about. To another point, an opinion is not a fact. An opinion is an opinion. So I don't know everything. I'll voice my thoughts and my opinions and views on stuff. And then somebody will chime in and they'll say, well, correction, I Google such and such, or they'll pull up a file or whatever. And I'm, oh, okay, well, okay. All right, I stand corrected. Why can't people do that? What is wrong with that? So what is wrong with being wrong or misinformed? I just don't understand that. Is this for the audience? Are you trying to just go back and forth for no apparent reason? I know me personally, I'm always neutral. I'm always neutral. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I feel strongly about something, put it this way, it's Jason to tell you. I mean, we've had plenty of conversations up here. There's been days where I felt strongly about things. I was wrong about it, and if I'm wrong about it, I'm wrong about it. But
what do you mean by staying neutral? That's what I want to know. What do you mean by staying neutral?
Oh, all right. Hold on. I think this is what she's talking about right here. The clips seem to be in the favor of manhood being a favorite man, and so I I don't edit this stuff. I take them from the source, and then I post it, and then we just go over it.
Oh, I don't doubt that you respect us, SM. I'm asking you this question because I want you to explain what you mean by neutral. This is one of the great things about discourse is you can say something and I can say something, and then we can talk about these things. We can talk about these two different points of view, and know that I can respect you even though I disagree with you, and then we can make it about us wanting to understand what each other are thinking rather than feeling like an attack. And that's what I want to get at. That's what these discussions are all about, is being able to talk about the issues, not attack the person. So what I want to know is what you mean by staying neutral.
I'm going to go out on a limb, but she can answer it for herself because one of her following posts was the clip seemed to be in the man's favor and out of context. You know, a lot of these clips, they do it for shock value. You know, they take specific pieces that are designed to create back and forth, and sometimes it does make one person look a little more out of character than the other. I have no control over it. I will say this though, whether or not you think that it was a setup or not, it doesn't change the exchange there. She said what she said still, and he said what he said. It wasn't like he slapped the hell out of her, like in a Batman animated cartoon type of way. No, it was just what you got. I mean, I guarantee this. I'll give you another one. I guarantee if you watch the entire show, it would have gone the exact same way. I can almost be certain that he doesn't change up at all throughout this show. But I mean, that's me objectively speaking though. Now there are dudes who raise their voice, and but how often do you see that?
So, like Mel, I was looking more at the interaction rather than the content because the emotions don't lie. They A person who acts emotionally in a certain way is going to act that way in many different contexts, regardless of what's being shown. So the moment when she says, if you agreed, if I had said that you were emotionally mature, we would have gotten past that. And then you see the escalation of emotion as she's talking. She becomes much more aggressive. She becomes much more elevated in speech. She feels like she has to dominate that conversation. Even as he's trying to get words in edgewise, she feels the need to dominate. This is an indication of fear. When you think about how mammals react, when a person or any kind of pack animal, whether it be a dog, a wolf, any kind of pack animal, the more they emote, it has to do with how emotionally dysregulated they are. This goes for people as well as any other pack animal. When you see a dog that is barking a lot, many people think that it's being aggressive, but honestly, it's because it is afraid, and is projecting this aggressiveness because it is afraid. Same thing goes with people. When people decide they need to be loud and they need to be talking all the time, it's because they are not emotionally regulated. There's some kind of fear or anxiety that is driving that need to speak. When he was speaking, he was asking questions. He was challenging her in ways of being able to either qualify her statements or to provide some sort of discussion about it, and she would not have it. She would either continue talking over him or she would shut down. A person who is emotionally regulated is willing to rise to the occasion of discourse, to understand how a person is going to interact with you, how they can work on the discussion points, rather than feel triggered, feel attacked, or feel like they have to control the situation because of the lack of emotional regulation. Does that make sense?
I'm glad you broke that down, because I know there's a lot of feminists out there that would have gotten offended by this, assuming, that this is an attack on someone in particular because you challenge their point of view or whatever the case may be. Look, I want answers. I want to know what's accurate and what's inaccurate. You're on a podcast. You're sitting in front of hundreds of people, spewing or voicing your thoughts to impressionable minds who might fall under the same category as you in terms of how they think or how they regulate their feelings. And that may not work. That might not be the best formula for this. Let's go ahead, put it on the table, figure this out, and go from there. But I really think a lot of these people go on here just to argue. Like, legitimately go on there just to create some type of unnecessary back and forth. Now, I don't have the actual link for that one, but if you want the link, I'll make sure that you get it so that you can go see it for yourself, and then you come back and let me know if you saw something different. Because I don't know about you, bro, but it's like all I need is a good, give me 2-3 minutes of any type of video, especially like this. I'll pretty much pick up on a lot of what is going on here. Now, you're not going to get everything out of it right within that time frame, but that seemed like it was, it seemed like that was one of the juicier portions of the segment, and it was probably later in the show, but at the beginning it's always cool, calm, collective. Everybody's happy, everybody's shaking hands, and they're making little cute jokes at the beginning, and then you start off light with the discussions, and then you start getting into heavier. Once you get into the heavier portions, that's when you start seeing the real. That's what that seemed like it was. So
that's the beginning is always boring. You never show the beginning because everyone's poised, everyone's collected. They know they're gonna be very intentional in what they say and how they react. It's once you actually get invested in the conversation, when you let go of that pretense, because you now feel like you're comfortable, that you can say what you need to say with it. Okay, this is getting good. And then when people are really beginning to explore what they can share, and then really showing their true self, that mask slips off and they show who they really are, because now they feel comfortable enough to show their true selves. This is when you really get to the good stuff. So yeah, no one's ever going to share the beginning of it, unless of course the beginning is fiery right from the start. In which case you show the entire segment, because if the beginning is that good, then you know that it gets even better through towards the end. I mean, if people are throwing fists, it's like, wow, okay, how did we get how did we get here? I'm kidding though. Yeah, the reason why you show just the parts that are juicy is because in my experience, that is the ending part, or towards the latter end of the discussion, is when people feel comfortable enough to show who they really are. You don't want to see the masks that the people have. Those are boring. You can look at anything for that, but it's when the masks come off and people really show who they really are. This is when you really get to see the real side of them, and that's really what gets shown. It's where the good discussions are.
I tried to play my Michael Buffer clip, and it wouldn't go off. I'm gonna have to get that one looked at again. But nah, that's real talk though. That's real talk. That's why I guess it just depends on the viewer. Because I've watched a lot. I've watched enough of these to know that's exactly how I go. I personally rip the Band-Aid off. Go ahead and then let it just kind of trickle throughout the good. Yeah, I'm for that. But everybody's style is different, and a credit to the brother here. These ain't very comfortable environments. I can only imagine being in person in the studio with people with temperaments like hers and doing this on a weekly basis. Is your friend currently in the building? Shout outs to Jay if you are in the building. Shout outs to Jay if you're in the building. You should be in the building. If you're not in the building, shame on you. Shame. But I will actually do you a solid. I'm going to get the links. I'm going to make sure you get it, and I'm going to make sure Jason gets it. Because I'm just giving you my point of view on it. I haven't even watched the full video, but now I need to go watch it myself because I want to know what this was about. And then I'm gonna end up spinning the block back on this because I almost guarantee this was a relationship related conversation. I just got a feeling it was, and that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Do you have anything that you want to address here before we close out?
I just want to say, SM, thank you so much for hanging with us and for asking some good questions, and really wanting to, challenge us on our own beliefs. I love it when people come in and they want to kind of mix it up a little bit. I find that to be the best part, because it's through these spirited debates, through these discussions that we have, that we begin to build that consensus, that we begin to find out how do we move forward. And that is the greatest part of communication, is the ability to understand how we can move forward, knowing that we may not agree on everything, but we can at least agree on something that we can move forward on. We can make that the focus so that we look at each other as allies rather than as adversaries. So I really agree with you, Paul. I really appreciate you pulling up. And I love the fact that you were able to ask some questions, challenge us on some things. And I hope that we gave you some things also to think about.
Couldn't have said it any better. And just so you know, SM, she's big on the general discussions. She'll know what I'm talking about. General discussions. It's a whole off the grid social media app thing. There's this website that I used to take room and board on. Nobody knew about this site. Nobody knows about it. And we would pretty much have conversations like this on there. The only difference is on there you're censored and they report you. You don't have no freedom of speech on that little app. But yeah, she's good for getting in those conversations. I need to go check and see if they still over there talking. But yeah, salutes to you, SM. I appreciate you for pulling in, Jason, as usual. Yeah. Everybody in the building that pulled up, man. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. The open mic tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. I think that's pretty much a wrap for this evening, man. I hope you enjoy the rest of yours, sir.
Thank you so much. I will, and you the same. And SM, hope you enjoy your weekend as well, and your evening. And looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday, Mel.
All right.